You are listening to Common Filth Radio, episode 70, and I thank you very much for taking the time to do so. Common Filth Radio, the best of 2015, is now available on my Bandcamp page, and the URL for that is commonfilthradio.bandcamp.com. This collection includes 105 tracks, clocking in at over 11 hours. That's all calculated. I had a computer do it for me. It's all right. And all that documents some of the best moments of the show that I recorded in 2015. And the first 7 tracks of it, that adds up to 1 hour and 50 minutes, and all of that is never before heard content, including a complete lost episode that I left unreleased until now. So 7 tracks, total 1 hour, 50 minutes. Never before heard stuff exclusive to this collection. And you can get all that for $4 on commonfilthradio.bandcamp.com. The URL for that is below. Up until recently, in my About sections on all the websites that I am active on, Twitter, YouTube being the two notable ones, I always put in the About section alternative propaganda. And this has been the case for roughly a year and a half. But I realized nothing I do here is a lie. When you say propaganda, that implies that you're lying or telling a half-truth or you're obscuring some pivotal piece of information. So I was doing some thinking about this, and I was doing some thinking about the nature of the internet and how it enables what I do here. And the internet is like a million ultra-high-definition cameras recording at thousands of frames per second. And what kind of events are these cameras recording? What kind of events is the internet recording? Cultural suicide and assassination, much like how John F. Kennedy's assassination was documented on film. Like Bud Dwyer's suicide, captured on camera, broadcasted live, for whoever to see. These things documented for all eternity. During a time where cameras weren't so common. Documentation was not so common. We have all of these stories, all of this information, available to us within a few keystrokes. Yet, very few people are editing together these events, making sense of them, connecting them. Also, for the first time in history, we have a very direct way of gauging the sentiment of the common person. And I'm in a very unique position, because what I do is tied in with youth culture. I have not promoted my channel here, my radio show here, in a very conventional way. As you know, I got my start with Full House Memes on Facebook. That was my creation. A Facebook humor page that ended up creating something that I didn't know what it was going to become. I didn't know what it was going to grow into, who it was going to influence, but what it influenced, who it influenced, was the youth. YouTube is also tied in with what the youth does. There's a very big overlap between what the youth do and what YouTube does. What's on YouTube? I get to see comments every day, all over the world from all different types of people. Young people, I get to know what they are thinking. And this influences me greatly, because I can tie it back to this news story. I can tell you the inevitable result of what they believe. Think about all of the news stories that I covered in the last year. And I shouldn't even call it news because it doesn't really make the news. It doesn't make it beyond, here's this local website from Oklahoma. We've covered stories about lesbian moms feeding their daughter kitty litter pot pies. We've heard about influential gay rights icons being child rapists and getting away with it. What else have we heard about? The list goes on. Sexual depravity in seminaries. This is all just coming to me. I don't have any of this written down. And those are just a few of the, 40-something episodes I did last year. Through the lens of the internet, all of this information is being captured. But because of the nature of the internet, it's very difficult to find. It's very difficult to capture somebody's imagination. It's very difficult to colonize people's imagination, because they don't want to hear about this stuff. It paints a very unflattering picture of what they consider important. I'm the only person editing the footage captured through the lens of the internet in the way it should be. The sickening shit young people say, in light of all this information that I have documented on this show, that I put into context on this show, it influences me greatly. It influences what I talk about here. So I'm going to read to you this comment that I got from, I'm not going to say who it is. It says this, and this is perfectly representative of what young people think. What a lot of people think, unfortunately. Young and not so young. I am 100% pro-LGBT, and I understand being gender fluid or transgender or gender neutral, but like, you don't need to hate all straight people and freak out when they use the wrong pronoun. It's 2016. Most people will apologize and correct themselves, but when they don't, that's when I understand you being mad. Just throwing that out there. I don't know who this girl is. I'm assuming it is because of the name. There's no picture, but I've seen other YouTube comments. Written by what appear to be 11-year-old girls saying, I think I'm pansexual, but I'm just trying to make sure. What is it exactly? I've seen it. It's on my Twitter. I took a screenshot of it. Editing the name out, of course. But that's what's out there. That is what is being encouraged. That is what is being encouraged amongst people who really should know better. This is what the LGBT lobby is turning your children into. And your children like these people. Because they make cool YouTube videos. Like I said before, I was friends with some degenerate on Facebook. Who was babysitting some girl and he found her watch history and it was all about gay people stuff. And this is apparently a 9-year-old kid. There's some excellent parenting going on amongst those of European stock. Really great job you're doing there, fellas. And speaking of some excellent parenting, this comes to me from the Enix Squared on Twitter. Thank you, the Enix Squared. Everybody send your thank yous. This is from the Daily Mail. Here we go. And these are some very proud parents these children must have. It feels like a turkey neck. Lesbians touch a penis for the very first time in brilliant video, which sees them compare it to everything from warm Play-Doh to an old hot dog. So is this what they're using for improvised masturbatory devices? Okay, I'm going to read it. Some proud parents, and guess the race of these people, everyone. Guess the race of this dude who's letting lesbians grab his dick. It is a tough one to figure out, but I'll give you some time to conjure up an educated guess. Most men would be horrified at the thought of a woman giggling while she touched his penis. But one man was happy to volunteer for the job in a new video, and actually smiled right along with the 3 ladies who couldn't keep their laughter under control as they fondled him. That's probably because there was nothing inherently sexual about the experiment, which saw 3 lesbians who'd never touched male genitalia before doing so for the first time. You see, I think we read something before that said that 90 to 95% of lesbians aren't true lesbians. So, I find it unlikely that these women are telling the truth. Continuing. And to make matters all the more awkward, the build-up, were caught on camera for a funny new video shared by the lesbian singing duo, Bria and Chrissy. I'm so proud of my daughter. She's in a lesbian singing duo. Bria Cam, one half of the singing group, was one of the volunteers who decided to get up close and personal with the guy's package for the first time while the camera was rolling. Her friend, Alex, oh god, it's a Polish name, wow, my proud heritage, who is gay, offered to strip down and offer up his genitals for the recording. On camera, he stands beside each of the women and takes off a pair of jeans to reveal red boxer briefs underneath, while the ladies all share how they're feeling about the experiment. I'm feeling very nervous, says a girl named Daylin, that has 2 Y's and 2 N's in it, who seems giddy with anxiety. This is definitely the most nervous I've ever been. Bria agrees. I've never touched a penis, explains a woman named Ariel through giggles, and she conscientiously asks Alex, my hands are a little cold, is that going to bother you? I should not be nervous to do this. It's just a body, says Daylin, who seems to be speaking more to calm herself down than anything else. Ew, cooties. Is that the impression you're getting? That's the impression I'm getting. Developmentally stunted. Where was I? I feel like I've gone my whole life trying to avoid this moment, admits Bria. That isn't to say they don't all have ideas about what it will be like. The women share their expectations, voicing what they imagine the feel of a penis will be. I think it's going to feel like when you go to the vet and you had your cat to get an injection, so they'll shave the fur off the cat and then it's like loose skin or a bag of raisins, says Ariel, which makes Alex laugh. Then she says, it's not hard, right? I think it'll feel like a snake, says Daylin. Alright, I'm going to stop reading. We get the point. And I'm sure this guy has a very proud father. Oh, I stripped nude for a lesbian YouTube video where girls grab on my penis. My son makes me so proud. He's a nudie model for YouTube videos. He gets molested by lesbians. And now I'm looking at something in the side panel. NBA star didn't want his daughter playing basketball at school in case she became a lesbian. Ex-girlfriend of Andre Iguodala claims in custody dispute. Well, I think that concern is valid. Of course, I am not factoring into the equation that homosexuals occupy the upper echelon of our social hierarchy, which they do. And many personal hierarchies, including federal judges or whoever the hell takes on these cases. We really have our priorities straight in Clown World. And like I said, people who should know better are falling trap to this shit, which I will discuss later because I've been getting a lot of emails about this. I've been getting a lot of emails supporting me on this, expressing the concerns I have expressed. I'm tapping into an anxiety a lot of people have. More on that later. But right now, I would like to read you this. This was sent to me by a good friend. This is New York Post. From the New York Post. Emails to Dolan detail priest's alleged pee-drinking sex romps. The scorned ex-girlfriend of an S&M master to a Catholic priest went right to the top and sent Timothy Cardinal Dolan emails that were hardly suitable for church, laying out details of the romps that were allegedly funded with cash skimmed from the poor box. Tatiana Gudin shared with the Post her message to the cardinal that recounted how the Reverend Peter McQuelly allegedly wore a locked lucite chastity belt along with a dog collar during pricey sessions with his bodybuilder lover. She also claimed to the Pope's right-hand man in America that McQuelly had an interfaith fantasy of being humiliated in Borough Park, Brooklyn, in front of a quote-unquote nice Jewish girl. Oh my, this is why you don't invite these people into your fucking ranks. It's not that fucking difficult. All you have to do is say no, leave, get out. McQuelly, meanwhile, remained a pastor of St. Francis de Chantal in the Throgs Neck neighborhood of the Bronx on Friday. Gooden wrote to Dolan about McQuelly's taste in high-end booze and claims he paid for many of their luxuries by putting his boyfriend in charge of a church thrift shop. McQuelly loved to enjoy $300 bottles of scotch, she wrote, all on a priest's $2,474 a month salary. She wrote to Dolan that McQuelly fired the St. Francis thrift shop staff and installed his lover Keith Christ to run it. She said Christ turned it into a money-making machine but only reported $50,000 a year. To add insult to injury to cover his embezzling activities, McQuelly would every so often fire whoever was the right-hand employee in the thrift shop by accusing them of theft, she wrote. On Thursday, McQuelly's parishioners filed a fire and brimstone lawsuit that claimed the pastor swiped at least $1 million in church funds so he could enjoy the favors of his $1,000 per session homosexual sex master identified in the suit as Christ. The suit also claims McQuelly took trips to Florida and Italy with money snatched from collection plates and from an account for a new organ at St. Francis Xavier Cabrini on Roosevelt Island, where he was stationed before the Bronx. Gooden, Christ's former girlfriend and confidant of 10 years, said she sounded the alarm about McQuelly in her emails to Dolan over the summer. This woman has the worst taste in men. What, you date homos? Great. Well, what a great person you are. Okay, did I read that last one? Guiden, Chris' former girlfriend and confidant of 10 years, said she sounded the alarm about McQuelly in her emails to Dolan over the summer. The first one began with, I would like to tell you who your priest, Father McQuelly, really is. Keith has been Father McQuelly's gay for pay prostitute, the email reads. More specifically, Father McQuelly is Keith Christ's toilet slave. Fuck. Yeah, this is just a minority of people. This doesn't exist outside of Tumblr. No, it doesn't. It doesn't, so just shut up. These people help our movement, don't you know? These people help a lot. Like, toilet slave. I'm trying to read the next paragraph, but it's right next to toilet slave. If you don't know what that means, Cardinal, I will break it down for you. Keith Christ uses Father McQuelly as his toilet, and Father McQuelly drinks his piss during their weekly 3-day get-togethers when they take off to Father McQuelly's house in Brick, New Jersey, far away from prying eyes. These people help our movement. These people help our movement. McQuelly bought the white brick ranch house for $264,000 in embezzled cash in 2009, the lawsuit alleges. The house features a hot tub in the back and a statue of Virgin Mary out front. The Father McQuelly has a full-blown dungeon in the house, she wrote Dolan. Oh my god. Master, she said McQuelly would email Christ, I can't wait to get to Jersey tonight so I can drink your piss. Good, I don't know how to pronounce this girl's name. I feel like I'm Gooden, told the Post. All the juicy stuff is what Keith would tell me face to face. We would be laying in bed together and he would say, Tatiana, I have to show you this. I would be looking at those emails for sport, she said. This one's my favorite, Gooden wrote the Cardinal of the following email. Master, I don't really like drinking your piss, but I do it because I know it pleases you. A reply email from a New York Archdiocese lawyer confirms that Gooden's emails were received by the Archdiocese. The parishioner's lawyer, Michael Dowd, said Gooden's emails to Dolan and her personal recollections informed much of the lawsuit. The priest and his boy toys spent $60,000 in 2012 for illicit and prescription drugs, the parishioner's suit says. And here, too, Gooden has more details for the Post. They'd start shooting up the Dilaudid, she said, referring to an opium tincture they would allegedly use at the East Harlem apartment that, according to the suit, McQuelly was footing the $1,075.50 a month rent for. They would party. There would be needles and syringes all over the house, Gooden said. There was equipment at the house, dildos, whips, chains, and chaps. Keith used it. The priest also used it, she said. This is somebody you're confessing your sins to, everyone. Are you okay with that? You probably are, knowing who most people are. The sex toys, she said, were all bought by the priest. This chastity belt was very unique, she told the Post. It's also small, so when it grows, you're in pain. I'm sure the priest buys all the equipment, she added. At one point in her emails to Dolan, she relayed what she called the most vile, sickening part of the story. More sickening than toilet slave? Keith told me that McQuelly over the years has had a huge fantasy for Keith to take him to Borough Park in Brooklyn to the Hasidic section, she wrote, and to humiliate him in public in front of a pretty Jewish girl. When Keith told him I'm Jewish, as you can imagine, McQuelly's perverted efforts intensified. McQuelly would sometimes wait until Gooden came home so she could see their sex play, she wrote. When I get home, they would be in bed together, naked, doing their disgusting activities. Our apartment is big, but none of the rooms have doors on them. All because he has a sick fantasy of defiling a pretty Jewish girl. He's standing on his knees, he's got his collar on, Gooden said. Christ relayed of their antics. Christ would say, you make me sick, you're not worthy to drink my piss. Well, that is some insult. The Archdiocese said on Friday that the allegations against McQuelly are under investigation. Kristen McQuelly could not be reached for comment. Well, how am I going to top this? I got some information that I thought came close by. It's either you laugh or you cry. All right? You look at how these people behave away from the prying eyes of us cisheads, and it is absolutely absurd how this is considered beyond reproach. These people are considered beyond reproach. I will never understand this. I never will. Never, ever, ever. I will never get how it got this bad. I'll never fathom how it got this bad. I know what caused it. Moral apathy. Massive amounts of moral apathy. That extends far and wide. That does not limit itself to one nation. But apparently in this day and age, saying no is too difficult. Oh, you have a toilet slave? No. No. No, no, no. You're not. No. Nothing. No positions of power. No being held in high esteem. No. How apathetic do you have to be to say no? It is unfathomable. The apathy I get, that's what caused it, but I don't know what caused the apathy. Somebody's going to have to tell me that. Well, I was going to read this post from akinocure.blogspot.com. The title of the blog post is Heterosexuality Still Declining Among Young Women. Well, maybe we'll get to that at another point, but I do still have something from the author of this blog that I would like to read later on the show. I would like to read it because it is very interesting. It's just not as explosive as Catholic toilet slaves. Something I never thought I'd ever say. Anyway, let's do emails. Thank you for choosing to release Common Filth, the best of 2015, the day before my birthday. It is the perfect gift. You're welcome. A bit of a broad question, but what do you think are the signs of having lived a good life? If you are unsure on that one, what do you think leads people to romanticize really detrimental things like the guy who got HIV from a trap and the guy who got ass blasted by a tranny? And if you don't know what that last one is referring to, I read another screenshot from some image board, and it was a similar story. Some guy who's like, I hired a tranny prostitute, and then hellish things ensued. Yes, nobody could have seen that coming. Nope. You being a novelty-seeking piece of shit? No, that won't backfire on you. Don't worry about it. None of us are going to judge you. Wow, you tried that? That was really brave of you. Honestly, it's the same thing. And it's that simple. I'm not trying to take a shortcut out of here. It's that simple. It is moral apathy. But I hope you enjoy the best of 2015 collection. It is quite good. I put a lot of effort into it, and I hope that is. I hope you feel that in the final product. Next. Hello, Common Filth. I've watched all your vids and bought everything on your Bandcamp. Love all your content. Keep up the good work. I visited a police station recently due to family issues, but I thought you would like to know that one of the police lockers had a proud to be hermaphrodite plastered on the door. I would have taken a photo, but I wasn't allowed to. These are the people trusted with keeping the peace. Well, what have I told you about, not just you, everyone? What have I told my audience about social hierarchy? I'm the only one talking about that. I'm the only one introducing that idea to people. And nobody's been able to tell me that I'm wrong. The only thing that anybody's able to tell me is that, these people are good for our movement. You know, these people help us. Look, I've seen too much to believe that. Look, that might be what you comfort yourself with. That might be how you comfort yourself with the mistake you made. But I know it's bullshit. But thank you for supporting what I do. It really keeps me going. I do it for you. And how beautiful it is that I got this email next. Subject: transgender anti-discrimination laws fine $250,000. And there are a few links here that we will get to. Let me tab them up. And the content of the email: New York City law insanity in full. Also, transgender rapists can get off free. So, New Year, 1 year closer to the fullest decay of this world. 1 year closer to the day of the Lord. And finally, eternal purity and peace in the newly established kingdom of Christ Jesus. I hope so. And for context, this $250,000 fine thing. Did you call a transsexual person, and this is from Breitbart, did you call a transsexual person he or she when they preferred to be called she? According to a newly updated anti-discrimination law in New York City, you could be fined an eye-watering $250,000. In the latest astonishing act of draconian political correctness, the NYC Commission on Human Rights have updated a law on discrimination on the basis of gender identity or expression. So there you go. If you need evidence of a social hierarchy, there you go. And this is from a blog called transtrender.wordpress.com. This was from October 2014. Is transgender the get out of rape prosecution free card? Twitter rapist Dana McCollum walks. Wealthy transgender Twitter executive Dana McCollum evaded prosecution on multiple felony counts of rape, false imprisonment, and battery, even though there were multiple witnesses to his violent rape spree, which he inflicted on his estranged wife in the presence of their children. What's that about? Beyond reproach, social hierarchy? That's just irrational and crazy, and you're crazy because you're crazy. Okay, next. Hey CF, I recall that you once mentioned that you had to change a lot of your habits and personality in order to better reflect who you'd become in a previous episode. As someone who's going through a similar situation, I have to ask, how did you do it? How did you get through the times you wanted to give up if you ever had such an inclination? Was there any outside support, or did you have to do it alone? Thanks for the time, and please keep it up. Lord knows this is one of the few positive influences I have. A lot of it is the desire to be different from the world, because the world is under Satan's jurisdiction. And through the power of prayer, you get the courage to say no to a lot of things. There's no freedom without the freedom to say no. You say no to a lot of the worldly bullshit. You say no to the things that people believe, the things that people go along with. That is key in fixing whatever you got going on inside of you. Saying no. Saying, no, I'm not going to be a lazy piece of shit today. Saying, no, I am not going to hang out with those people who are not good company, who do not keep good company. You know, when I had roommates, I never felt like I was really a part of anything when I never felt the desire to do that, to drink and party and be stupid and be loud and obnoxious with people I don't really know or care about. This was a little bit ago at this point, but not that long ago, back when I was in college and where I was closer to this stuff. But the temptation was little. Because I felt like it would damage my current relationships with my family and friends that I actually like. And it's just not fun being around that kind of stuff. And this is just an example. It takes work to build strength within yourself, but how you do that is think, who is in my life who appreciates me? Who appreciates me in my present state, who is decent? Who is decent, who loves me, who appreciates me, who wants to see me do good and not bad. You have to take stock of people in your life who would be affected by bad decisions. And there are a lot of people who will be affected by your bad decisions. Unless you are a complete shut-in, in that case, you have some work to do on that front. People are too self-centered these days. And not just in like, oh, I got to look out for number one, I got to do me. No. They're self-centered in that they don't see how their decisions affect other people. And I'm not talking about monetarily or physically, whatever. Emotions are real, but they're not tangible. And by putting somebody in a bad mood, by putting this dark cloud over them that follows them around, that dampens their spirit, you affect more than just their day or your day. You affect the days of everybody they interact with. It's a very simple concept. Why do you think I say stuff like, oh, I'm proud of my toilet slave son? It's a rhetorical device. Because nobody says that. You think that guy's son, or that guy's dad rather, the priest, you think his dad feels good about where his son is in life? Engaging in toilet slavery? No. So take stock of who is affected by your bullshit and remove that bullshit, whatever it may be. Do it for their sake. And you will benefit from it. Alright, now let's get to this email. Hello, Common Filth, and I got this last week, but I was going to read it last week, but I needed to clear a few things up. But now I can read it. Got full clearance. Hello, Common Filth. I've been listening to your show for a year now, and I appreciate what you're doing. I know a lot of people don't agree with what you do, and the conclusions you make of the filth you find. The spiritual pain must be unbearable. So I thank you for dissecting the rotting carcass of Western civilization in its current form and shape. Regarding the critique of you, especially found within the cowardly halls of the leaking umbrella known as the alt-right, whatever the fuck that means, for fuck's sake, they can't even define what they follow as a guideline. Back to my point. You're right in your criticism regarding the alt-right. They are too inclusive. They allow Filth to have a platform. I don't care much for the drama, but let me tell you. I've noticed what is happening. Greg Johnson has allowed certain dysfunctional individuals a platform. Jack Donovan, My Nationalist Pony, James O'Mara, to mention a few. Now, with this being said, the fundament of the alt-right is dysfunctional, due to the fact that they allow these elements. Now, let me use an example. Imagine that you are trying to make a fundament for a house. Yet the material you are creating the fundament with is flawed. You cannot construct anything stable, solid, and strong on a flawed fundament. What I'm trying to state is that the alt-right is deliberately inclusive because they believe in quantity over quality. That is why people who speak against the questionable people being allowed a platform get shut down, locked out, and humiliated. The alt-right is not a movement, never will be. It is a platform for realityless strategies, cowardly behavior, and sinister elements. Even if we say they try and create a movement, they will never be able to create anything strong due to the fact that they have Paws, My Little Pony fanfics, and anime figures in their fundament. I am a National Socialist and I believe in specifics and solid ideas, not in pathetic abstractions, and I know that you do the same. God bless you, Common Filth. Now, most people seem to miss this fact, but I did not bring this up on my own. In fact, it was a Reddit question that I received back on episode 64. Where I received a question from a follower of mine. He said that he's sick of the right and this bullshit with the flat earth and the promotion of buggery. You can go on our subreddit, go to the question and comment thread for Common Filth episode 64. It's there. It's in full view. You can go see it. And yeah, I'm not lying to you. And another one. This is from the akinocure.blogspot.com agnostics blog called Face to Face. In the comment section of his review of the new James Bond movie, he makes a passing reference about the gay whoosh haircut. And the first comment is from somebody anonymous. It says, "I have that gay swoosh haircut. I thought it was just an SS haircut," as in the Nazis. And Agnostic said, "Nope, it's a 100% gay signal." And this was from November 30th, 2015. And I don't know who Agnostic is beyond the fact that he writes his blog that I am a fan of, but he doesn't know who I am. We've never had any correspondence. And he says in response to this gay swoosh haircut comment, he says, "Nope, it is a 100% gay signal. It's only a coincidence that some Nazis wore it, and even then maybe not so coincidental. If they were part of the large homo contingent among the Nazis. I think it's more of the gay tendency towards caricature and copying what the cooler older kids were doing 5 years ago. In this case, kitty cartoon version of a faux hawk. Gays think and act this way because infantilization is the defining trait of their broader syndrome, including, ew, girls are yucky. As with the Nazis, there is a major homoerotic group within the alt-right. First, they convince impressionable and naive young guys with no family ties into adopting their gay whoosh hairdo, and pretty soon they're convincing them that only sodomy will save Western civilization. The glory that was Greece." And that's the end of the comment. So this relative outsider who does his own thing, he sees this. The sender of this email sees it, and it was Schwartz who made the comment on Common Filth Radio episode 64 question and comment thread. Said, "What do you think of this god-awful flat earth drama that has been going around? The right was starting to piss me off already with some of the big alt-right names pushing for buggery and the like. Hopefully that particular strain of autism will be irrelevant by this episode, but hell hath no fury like an angry spurg." Well, the strain of autism that is influencing young men to to believe that sodomy will save Western civilization, that is fundamental. And moreover, there's this author for Countercurrents Publishing. His name's James J. O'Mara. He wrote a book, and the description for it is, his homo and the Negro brings a queer eye to the overwhelmingly homophobic far right. In his title essay, O'Mara argues that the far right cannot effectively defend Western civilization unless it checks its premises about homosexuality and non-sexual forms of male bonding, which are undermined not just by liberals and feminists, but also by Judeo-Christian family values advocates. Oh, those damn people who want to defend the family. They're the enemy. O'Mara also uses his theory to explain the stigmatization of Western high culture as gay and the worship of uncultured oafs as masculine ideals. Although O'Mara grants that the gay rights movement is largely subversive, he argues that homosexuals have traditionally played prominent roles in creating and conserving Western civilization. So, there you go, he's a homosexual supremacist. And if you type this guy's name into Google, first result, second page is his blogger profile. Now, I don't know if this is him or not, but it certainly aligns with what's being said here. He says that homosexuals are a natural elite. Homosexuals are a natural elite, according to this guy. It's in his interests. And back on the old alternativeright.com, which is now only accessible through the archive, the Wayback Machine. This is from the 10th of December, 2012, and Andy Nowicki wrote an interview with this guy, conducted an interview with this guy. And he says, the author of this, the guy who conducted this interview says, like Jack Donovan in The Way of Men, you're very keen on a restoration of a masculine ethos in an age of overweening feminism. While Jack, who wrote a blurb for your book, very much favors a return to what could be called the hardened traditional manly male, you seem to pine for a time when men could be swanky, well-dressed, bookish, and even temperamentally effeminate without immediately being tarred and feathered by certain know-nothing right-wingers as Nancy boy faggots. Yep, us right-wingers so know nothing about the nuances of sodomy, because that's what you should have a nuanced view on, is unbelievable. And before we move on, more comments, and this can be found in the discussion section of my YouTube channel. I have two different comments, written within days of each other. Wow, the alt-right are literal faggots. Jesus Christ, God bless you, CF. That's one of them. And then the next one. Hey, CF, I just saw that disturbing Jack Donovan post, and I would like to thank you. I will distance myself from that movement. Between these comments, the blog post, the comment in the blog post from Agnostic, the email I received, the question I got on Reddit all those weeks ago. I'm not the only one who sees it, and I'm not the only one who is disturbed by it. The alt-right needs to make a choice, and I hope they make the right one, because some of my favorite people belong to it. Toilet Law, who so graciously donated some of his time to host episode 60 of this show. Which, by the way, check out Postcards from the American Wasteland on his YouTube channel. It is some excellent stuff. And this is not just because I am mentioned in the most recent episode of it, episode 10. It is excellent otherwise. He's a very talented writer. And there's so many others. Ryan, who sent me that story about the Dolan emails, the toilet slave emails. Seventh Son, who interviewed me last year on therightstuff.biz. These are people who have all helped me out on my way here. And I do not want to see them degraded by what certain people want to turn this movement into. Scroll back a few minutes. Again, many of us are reading the tea leaves, and many of us are making the same interpretation of them. And we'll get to that Jack Donovan post, which is incredibly disturbing, like the comment says. Being that I'm running a bit low on time at this point, I'm going to go to the Reddit questions. Don't worry. There's still email questions left to go if you sent them, and I will get to them next week, but they're just going to have to wait at this point because they're a little bit longer. Where did free Gatorade come from? Well, when I was recording that episode of Tumblristas where the first joke I made about that, free Gatorade, and it was something about like something should be a human right, and I said free Gatorade should be a human right because I had a Gatorade bottle sitting there, and that's how that came to be, and I referenced it in the most recent episode of Tumblristas, so... just something silly, something goofy that people seem to like. Hey CF, how was your New Year's? Mine was positively enlightening. Well, I'll tell you how mine was. This was the first year that I didn't stay until midnight watching TV and shouting Happy New Year when the ball dropped. I always hated that for some reason. It always felt contrived, so... this year, I changed it up. I took my girlfriend to the movies, to the 10 o'clock showing of The Big Short. And that movie ran past midnight, so yeah, no bullshit, Happy New Year. We went into the movie theater in 2015, and we left it in 2016, and I like that, actually. There was only one other couple in the movie theater. We almost had it to ourselves. Almost. But that's not nearly as interesting as what you experienced, but we'll let everybody else know. I spent the last hours of 2015 drinking in a nice cocktail bar, but as soon as the clock struck 2016, my mates had an urge to switch venues. They heard about an 80s synthwave event on at another bar. What could go wrong, right? Synthwave is always a good time, right? This sounded great to us all of us, so we migrated there and we were greeted with the sight of Western civilization raping itself to death. Now, we knew it was a goth event, so there was always going to be some mediocre fuck you mom and dad and slutty women dressed like prostitutes, but I was not prepared for what we were to witness. It is worth mentioning that this bar is a normal bar, a bit hipstery and arty but normal, as in not a gay bar. My city has a dedicated bar for the pause pigs. This bar, on the other hand, hosts art exhibitions and the like in a nice old historic-looking building. So when I walked into this bar and saw men making out with each other at the bar, foul men wearing dresses that were either starving themselves to keep thin or dying of grid, it was confirmed to me that this is indeed mainstream culture now. If there was a live DJ on, I'm sure that he could have whipped the crowd into enough of a frenzy to start pausing each other on the tables. We had to pay a cover charge to get in, so my mates, while they knew we had fucked up big time, they wanted to stay and get some cheap drinks in to offset the cover charge. While I was at the bar trying to get a beer, two fags next to me were making out with each other, until one of them turned to me to complain about how his boyfriend had ordered him red wine instead of champagne and red cordial, and he was upset about this. He told me the wine was pretty good, though, and asked me if I wanted to try some from his hepatitis-contaminated glass. What a good bloke. I'm sure he would have given me a reach around, too, if I had asked. He could have spiked his own drink. That was a good call that you didn't do that. That would be pretty likely, I think. Some rump ranger in there also sold one of my mates some pretty fucked up gear in the toilets, too. The friend in question is fairly slight. Translated to gay newspeak, fuckboy with a juicy boy pussy. I'm going to throw up. Thank you. So I am 100% sure that if we didn't get him out of there, he would have been raped by one of the freaks wearing their fetish garb out in public. See the link below for a picture of the average person in the bar that night. I still feel dirty and will likely never forget the experience. These people are considered normal now. They are no longer relegated to partying in their gay bars. I have seen my civilization killing itself right before my eyes. Thank God it's 2016, only 20 more years before Apophis might bless us with sweet release. Also, there was no synthwave. Those faggots lied to me. Oh, man. Well, I am now even more thankful that I had a peaceful New Year's Eve to New Year's. So, really sorry to hear that, but yeah, I mean, if these are the natural aristocrats, then I guess being an unwashed prole, it's not so bad. But like I said, I'm not lying to you people. You can take anything I say and go out into the world and find it. You can. This is proof. And thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for living that proof. And I'm glad that you came out of it alive. Next, hey CF, I had a quick thought I want your opinion on. I've been living in South Korea for almost half a year now. I've made many Korean friends, and I'm here studying the language. From my personal experiences, I can truly tell you that Western and Eastern people are very different. Long story short, I've been thinking about race mixing a lot these days. I know it's bad for the children themselves, they have no true identity, and according to studies, mixed-race children are more likely to act out or show undesirable behaviors. But I've been thinking a lot about the future. Many studies say that whites will become even more of a global minority by 2050. And the way things are going with this global agenda to discriminate against whites, white people could have a hard time in that future. So here's my question. Do you think it would be better to have a mixed-race child with this future in mind? If things don't change and the world becomes so progressive that it doesn't want white people anymore, I don't want my child to have to grow up in a living hell because of their skin color. Ironic, isn't it? Also, just something you might find interesting. In Korea, every year has a specific name. I'm not really sure how it works. But this year is called Byeong Shin Nueyeon, which sounds like retarded bitch year in Korean. I think it's a good foreshadowing for 2016. Thank you for everything you do, CF, and keep fighting the good fight. The answer to that is no, and the reason is simple. Mixed-race children are seen not as, for example, let's say, white and Korean. Those kids, if they live in Korea, will not be seen as fully Korean. They will be a perpetual outsider regardless of what the global demographic situation is doing. But thank you very much for the question. Do you think there will ever be a turnaround in the Western world where pause loads and other such things won't be socially acceptable, or is there basically nothing but misery from here on? In other words, what do you think the future holds in store for white nations? Also, face reveal when. That already happened, but you're going to have to go through all my videos to find it. If the Western world chooses to succumb to the natural aristocracy of sodomites, then no, there is no future. People who are homosexual supremacists cannot survive. They can bear no fruit. They will starve. Next. How do you muster up the strength to make those Vine compilations? I can't even sit through a minute of angsty teens shouting about gay rights. Well, if you made it that far, then, if you made it to the part about the angsty teens shouting about gay rights, then, you made it past a minute. I think you're stronger than you think. Also, what is your opinion on Ramsey Paul? I like Ramsey Paul. I've been following him for almost 5 years now. But how I muster up the strength to assemble the Vine marathons, well, I wouldn't call it strength because, let's take a coroner, for example. They do a pretty difficult job. They deal with dead bodies all the time. I mean, after a certain point, it no longer phases them, the fact that they're dealing with dead bodies. For me, dealing with a dead culture no longer makes me cringe. It no longer makes me want to look away. And I suppose that's how I got here. Okay, next. Hey, CF, what do you think should be done about sodomites in society? Should they be left alone like a festering wound or exiled from society similar to lepers in the Bible? Have a happy new year and God bless. Well, you have to find out if they're repentant first. Who among them is repentant? And this is a serious question. This is not rhetorical. And that's all I'm going to say. Hey, CF, hope you had a nice time during the holidays with your loved ones. My only question this week is what your view is on very light bedroom play. I know you frown upon disgusting acts such as that boyfriend eating the girl's crap you talked about on a recent episode, but I mean things along the line of blindfolding to increment the excitement of the unknown with your significant other, if anything, to make her feel good. Thanks for your time, and I hope you're doing well. P.S. My girlfriend is an incredibly gentle and traditional soul. I don't want to corrupt or pervert our relationship because I honestly love what we have, but I have had this thought a few times before, and I'd like your take on it. Well, look, if you're asking me and you're providing details on what you do sexually, I think you feel some guilt about it. So my recommendation is walk down to the preacher, say I do, and be guilty no more. Next. I'm thinking about starting recording something myself, something niche for some friends. What is your recording setup and how does it treat you? There are probably more qualified people to ask, but I like you. And I like you too. Which is why you are a moderator on the subreddit. You do a good job. I'm running through some pretty old equipment right now, but it's almost to the level of professional quality. I'm using an M-Box. Which is a Avid product, but I got mine when it was still Digidesign, and I'm running a microphone into the M-Box, and to the M-Box I'm running into Pro Tools, so that is my setup. It is an expensive setup, and it is what musicians mostly use, and that's what I originally got it for. But it does the job with podcasts. Its editing options are great. But I think you can do a podcast just fine of good quality with a good USB microphone and Audacity, which is free. And I also have a portable Tascam recorder, which I use to record episode 58 around there. Episode 58, 59, something like that. And the audio quality was not what I expected it to be. There's some stuff on Common Filth Radio, the best of 2015, that I recorded with this, and it turned out a lot better. It's because I had it positioned in such a way on my desk that the two microphones were picking up more of the reflections than it did my own voice, and I don't know why that is. I guess it's just the way the shelves on my desk are positioned, but yeah, that's why those didn't turn out the best, but it was still functional, and this is a Tascam DR05. I think you could get it for less than $100. You'll have to check, but I think it's in that price range. So if you just want to start out, try something just for fun. I would not recommend the setup that I am using, but a good, decent quality USB microphone and a free copy of Audacity, you get some good results with that. And next, what do you think about Jack Donovan? I remember you mentioning his name and some of his work in the past. Did you read The Way of Men, and do you have any thoughts on it? If you haven't, I think it would resonate with you. Yeah, I have talked about Jack Donovan. I've said I've liked his work. I haven't read Way of Men, but I've read his stuff on Radix Journal. I think that's the site. But yeah, when this came to my attention, I really damaged my opinion of him. he said on the Roosh V forum, and you can go look at this. It's under his name. It's in a thread about him, and he's talking about his recently released book at that time, The Way of Men. This is from June 2013. Somebody said, I have read The Way of Men, and I strongly recommend it. It takes a lot of ideas that are out there in the manosphere concerning the role of a man and breaks it down and explains its origins. It is a great read, and even though the author is homosexual, it didn't make a difference in the knowledge I gained from that book, and it does not make a difference in how much of a man he is. Maybe he is the top, not the bottom. When he responds, yeah, I've been a top for years. I basically fuck men like they're women. But I'm glad that they're not. And he continues, I'm banging this jacked, rich liberal right now, probably the best piece of ass I've ever had. I've had sex with women, but I've been with one guy for 14 years, so there's no question of switching teams in any meaningful way. He's a good guy who supports me in my work and always has. I have a dude on the side, but it's all on the level. And betraying Lucio, I don't know what the fuck this is. I'm not a natural aristocrat like he is. Who became blood brothers with me for my second book, and has my initials tattooed by me on his arm, because I decided to explore other ideas for philosophical reasons would be the homo version of Eat, Pray, Love. As far as The Way of Men is concerned, it's either right or it isn't. A lot of the ideas came from conversations with my straight friends about their frustrations with their lives. It's not about me converting people. Let's be real. I'm a jacked tattooed guy who's more or less a skinhead. Do you for a moment think I can't get laid? The reality is I can post a pic to a hookup app and have someone blowing me inside of 3 hours. I'll be able to pull prime ass from dudes with daddy issues for the next 10 years. I would like to give you a moment to let that sink in. And he finishes with, I don't need to creep on straight guys to get laid, and everything I've ever written on the subject would make it unforgivable for me to do so. I don't have to elaborate on how incredibly disturbing this whole post is. It speaks for itself. So with that being said, thank you very much for listening. I have nothing much left to say other than, again, Common Filth Radio, the best of 2015, out on Bandcamp right now, commonfilthradio.bandcamp.com. Take care of yourselves, be good to each other, and I will talk to you later.
Grown, ain't I? The skinny nigga with the fro to the slightly bigger nigga who's a killer with the flow. Went from YouTube beats and SoundCloud, nigga. The only difference now is that I found Twitter. Fuck it, it's struggle rap, man. They never see the trouble that I'm going through. The way I sing, they think I live in bubble wrap. Fuck all that, even though I'm on some poppin' shit. With my niggas as my witness, I'm a nigga who can spit. Don't believe me? Overlooking my potential, I'm that poet to a phone, that poet was to a pencil. My mental is similar to that of a lion, and I'm the king of